Hello, beautiful souls. How are you today? I am doing an impromptu recording at the request of Maggie and Yeshua. I have been working on some um, collaboration type sessions with many of the Ascended Masters. And what we had in place for Maggie and Yeshua's offering cannot be rolled out yet because the divine feminine of the collective have some work to do. So this is a message for the women out there. This is a message for the men out there that have women in your life. This is a message for men out there that are looking for that meaningful relationship and connection. And more importantly, this is for all women to come to terms with which path you have been walking. Have you been walking the path that takes you down the divine feminine role? Or, like many of us, were you on the feminist path thinking that that was where you should be because that's where everybody was, and only to realize that they were actually working against everything that you inherently believe in? I don't know. It's not for me to decide, but I am here to tell you the main characteristics of both so that you can say, that sounds like me, or that sounds like where I need to be. Just giving you the information again in a way that I hope helps you to determine what is in your highest and best good. And again, this is something that came through from working with Yeshua and Maggie. And I have rolled out the activations for the Pleiadian activations with Meropa, and I have an Isis activation, but I cannot roll anything out with Maggie and Yeshua until the collective raises their bar of participation in their own life to embody that divine feminine role. So here we go. Let's dive in. To embrace the feminine side as Source Creator Mother Sophia intended it. This is no matter the gender. This has nothing to do with male or female. We all have within us a divine feminine and a divine masculine quality. There should be balance in all things, and then a little leveling up in the role that you identify with. So if you're a divine feminine, you would want to level up and master the embodiment of those divine feminine qualities. If you're a divine masculine, you want to level up and identify those divine masculine qualities. So divine feminine qualities: intuition, used to discern safe foods. Superpowers are a sense of knowing these scenarios that you go into. You can just innately feel that this is a good thing or a bad thing. This is like where you should be or where you shouldn't be, and acting appropriately to avoid danger. Why is this important? Because we have been in a patriarchal society who felt like and was emboldened to have acts of violence against women just for the sake of them being men, you know? And so a woman's intuition would say, yeah, this is not where I need to go right now. It feels like there's going to be some danger, and you go the opposite direction. Second, enhanced creativity. Once the divine feminine side is fully embraced, the creativity soars. We are not all creative in the same avenues or paths, but whatever it is that sparks within your soul, once you embody that divine feminine, you're just innately creative. You want to be creative. You're either working with your hands out in nature, you're artistic, some people channel, and it becomes a beautiful masterpiece. It's not in words or song or anything else, but it becomes art. So it just depends on what your creative outlet is. In order for that creativity to be fully embodied and realized, you have to have an unblocked sacral chakra. Sorry, my dogs are playing. You have to have an unblocked sacral chakra, as this is the source of creativity. It's also a source of sexual energy with creative expression. The divine feminine is capable of creativity with self-expression, mainly because creativity requires being in touch with your intuition and living from a heart space. As we go through these, you'll see that each characteristic actually builds upon the last one. So you really, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, right? So you start with intuition, that powerful intuition. You cultivate it, you pay attention to it, you recognize it, you build upon it. Then you start to, you've done the work, you did the shadow work, you've unlocked your sacral chakra and your other chakras. And so now you're able to embody the creativity side of the divine feminine. And then that flows into the next one, which is good communication. Assists with grounding and growing and nurturing your relationship. It's an excellent place to start in developing divine feminine qualities. Good communication means that you're no longer being triggered. You're not communicating from a head space. You're communicating from a heart space, your heart chakra. Number 4, increased empathy. Empathy is synonymous with feminine, right? If you're divine feminine, you're very empathic. It's a vital component to developing your communication. If you are struggling with empathy because of the world that we've grown up in, that we are constantly exposed, overly exposed to trauma all the time, this is an exercise that you can do. The key is that you try to put yourself in someone else's shoes without judgment. When you drop the judgment and the ego and you truly feel from a heart space, you can then embody that empathy. You can be empathic then without the low vibrational sense, feeling, frequency of judgment. 5, deep compassion. Compassion and empathy go hand in hand. Compassion is very strong. It's a positive, high vibrational feeling, and it brings energy to life. Compassionate feelings pull us into alignment with Source Creator and pull us into alignment with our divine feminine. Small act of kindness can help to provide love and support throughout your life. If this is an area that you really feel not comfortable with, start small. Start small. Be compassionate about that insect that flew into your house and just try to guide it out. Be compassionate about your neighbor that might need some help doing something, that's struggling. Just start small, and then it'll become second nature. You just have to start somewhere. Divine feminine qualities have been oppressed for centuries. And the whole reason that these patriarchal laws came into about was to devalue and disempower women. And it's because collectively, women are superpowers. We have a ton of superpowers. We have things that we do on a day-to-day basis without even thinking about it, that if you put a man in the role, they can't fathom, because they're processing things differently. They're very analytical. We're multitasking, we're nurturing, we're cooking, we're providing other things that are super important energetically. It's a superpower that has been oppressed for a very, very long time. And it takes practice to understand who you are and why you're here. 6, acceptance. Accepting and peace is not to be confused with complacency. Okay? We don't want anybody accepting a toxic relationship. We don't want anybody accepting being abused. We don't want anyone accepting being treated less than. We want you to advocate for healthy boundaries. We want you to be treated the way you deserve to be treated, the way that we all deserve to be treated. But there's no room for martyrdom or playing the victim role. If you're in a toxic situation and you've just been playing that role forever because you like the attention, that is on you. It is up to you to stand up and make a change that allows you to maybe accept a different reality, which is healthier for you. Acceptance means you are in a superior state of consciousness. You're no longer being triggered. You have let go of the attachments to whatever it is that's causing these feelings. And you allow yourself to then See the big picture, see a different picture. Some people are so attached to their toxic life, but they can't fathom any other life because it's all that they know. You have to give yourself permission to look beyond the boundaries that you have set before you or you have accepted and accept it no longer because it's not in your highest and best good. So, whenever you reach that state of non judgment and detachment, fully empathic and compassionate, then the acceptance comes into play and you experience all of the feelings of being human without being taken advantage of, without being manipulated or controlled. You understand that there's a level of acceptance that's okay, and there's a level of acceptance that goes beyond what is acceptable. 7, understanding stems from compassion and acceptance. You see how these continue to build upon themselves. This is where your brain aligns with your heart and realizes that bad people are just suffering and they also deserve compassion. And this is a level of spiritual evolution. This is a soul evolution point where you are letting the judgment go. You are no longer pointing your finger at someone and saying, how can you do that? How dare you do that? You don't know what it is that brought them to that point in time, but it is safe to say they are suffering. So many people act out of pain and their own abuse. And so the last thing they need is more. That's not going to do it. Love is always the answer. Love and compassion and empathy and forgiveness. And if we can focus on those emotions, man, this world will be in a completely different state of consciousness. Trust me. 8, forgiveness. Again, all of these build upon themselves. Forgiveness builds compassion, empathy, understanding, and allows anger and resentment, grudges to end as byproducts. They fall away as byproducts of your empathy, compassion, acceptance, and understanding. And I've said this many, many times, the more work you do on yourself, the more shadow work you do to address your attachments, to address your non-serving ways, things that you can now look at fairly and say, this really didn't bring much to my life, but my ego made me do it. And I have to be strong enough and courageous enough to say, yeah, that wasn't the best thing for us. That wasn't the best thing for me. It didn't really result in all the goodness that I was promised. And it's time for me to let that go. Because sometimes people have an attachment to something more out of pride because they don't want to admit that they were wrong than they do out of a true longing for the person, place, or thing. Number 9, live from the heart. Make intuition-based decisions from the heart space, giving balance both mentally and emotional. You don't want to be driven by your emotions. Emotions are really ego driven. We can have feelings about things, feel it, and then let it go. When you hold on to it, that's when you're developing the core wounds and the negative cords and attachments to things that are continue to draw your energy to this negative event. And that is not growth. That will stagnate your growth. You want to live from a heart space, forming relationships based on love, acceptance, and mutual trust. If you don't have love, acceptance, forgiveness, humility, compassion, empathy, mutual trust, what you probably have some characteristics of a relationship that are toxic. Number 10, kindness. Kindness is the ultimate divine feminine trademark. We are inherently kind. Be that default mode for the world. The world needs more kindness. Divine feminine show kindness to all living beings, to the grass, to the ground, to the stream, to the trees, to the butterflies, to the insects, to the snakes. That's a hard one for me. I just go the other way. You want to be in a place of kindness and compassion and love, because those are what is generating the high frequencies, and those frequencies resonate and ripple throughout your entire community and world. Number 11, gentleness. Know that intuitively when to be strong and when to be gentle. And that's another divine feminine trait. Divine masculine is like they come in strong all the time. They are this show of force. They are the doers, right? Divine feminine know how to balance that. They know how to intuitively be super strong and handle all sorts of obstacles that come their way. At the same time, being loving and kind and compassionate. So there's a balance there that you have to obtain, and you obtain that balance by going through each of these divine feminine qualities and working on them. It takes practice. We became manipulated in our mind from all the work that the culture has done to create this scenario that we are helpless, we are victims, we don't have a say, we don't have power, we need men to do things for us, we have to have permission, all this stuff that's really truly not the case unless you make it so. Truly balanced persons, beings, learn to integrate both the divine feminine and divine masculine qualities. As a divine masculine, you would embrace your divine feminine side. So you would honor and accept the feminine energy that allows you to be loving in any situation and to any being. That you can manifest those qualities. At the same time, you would bring the strength and the stability and the support that your divine feminine counterpart requires and deserves. Doesn't matter, man or woman, you would embrace both sides. You'd embrace the divine masculine and the divine feminine because there has to be balance in all things. That is the goal, to be balanced in all things. That balance is what helps to manifest a very equitable, loving relationship with your people in your life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic relationships. A divine masculine that fully embraces the divine feminine side is just a really, really balanced, steady, good-hearted soul of the divine masculine. And there's not enough of that, right? There's people that are out there with, the muscles and the brawn and the whatever, but they don't have any empathy. They don't even have empathy for themselves. And so, again, balance in all things is what we are looking for. Now, this is a channeled message that I got from Maggie this morning, which prompted this video. I thought about doing it yesterday, and I was kind of guided. No, it doesn't necessarily need to be your focus right now, but this is the focus. The focus is to wake women up. Okay. I want to let you know something before I get into Maggie's message. There are 11 significant qualities to the divine feminine. There are 5 to being a feminist. And I'm going to touch on them because it was kind of an aha moment for me. I don't think I've ever really aligned to feminism. I'm more grounded than that, I believe. But this is what I found. A demand for equal pay in the workplace. Sounds good. A demand for reproductive rights. Okay, let's stop right there. Women, innate quality of women. We are the portals to life. Our womb is a portal where that new being arrives through. Okay? It is a powerful ability that women have and men do not have. Period. So reproductive rights was taken away by religion. Religion came in and said, women are to bear the fruit, whether they want to or not. And it is up to the men to decide. So when you're out there demonizing women for being pro-life so that you can be more supported to have birth control and abortion, know that that is rooted in darkness, and that is rooted in the Vatican, and that is rooted in religion as a way to control women's superpower. Demand the end to women's suffering. Well, let's go back and think about how much suffering women have done throughout the times because of religious persecution. The quote unquote healers of the day, which used herbal medicine and their high frequency of energy, light, essential oils, like nothing harmful, was demonized by the church, by various religions. And because they could not and would not renounce their beliefs in the higher power and say that the only people that can heal are angels and those of the church and those that are men, they were killed. They were literally brutalized. They were beaten, tortured, enslaved, and burned at the stake for being a healer. So a lot of the women suffering, looking at a woman as a piece of property, that's a patriarchal societal construct developed and supported by religions. Look it up. A demand right to education, demanding the right to education. Again, who prevented women from being educated? Society. But it was born out of religion, where they had to keep women in a certain place, pigeonholed, to where they could not embody all of their power. Women were not allowed to read at all. For a long period of time, they had to hide that they could read. They had to be taught how to read in private, in secrecy. What is that about? It all came about by a patriarchal society that knew they had to keep the women powerless and disempowered because they were afraid that they would take over the world. Newsflash, we will. Okay, fighting against gender stereotypes and performative behaviors. Total negative AI agendas. Total negative AI agendas is to blur the definite lines between man and woman, male and female. This is saying a woman can do anything and everything that a man can do, and no questions asked. And a man can do anything and everything a woman can do, no questions asked. It is their right. It is not. I mean, you can want it. That's not how you were made. That's not your purpose, your plan on this planet. I don't know. Maybe you are someone who doesn't even have a soul. Maybe you were created to be a catalyst for change and that was your whatever. If that's the case, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to soul beings, SOULT, and knowing that we are brought here because we volunteered to come here to help humanity realize who and what we are. The right to own property. Okay, so women had the right to own property. They had their own money. They had their own homes. They had businesses. They had education. They were wise. They had all the things prior to religion deciding that that was no longer okay. They couldn't have that. It had to be given to them by man. It had to be obtained within a marriage and things like that. Totally created, totally man-made, created. That is not how Source Creator put us on this planet. Source Creator did not put us here to be subservient to men just because they're men. Did not put us here to be abused and mistreated and told that we could not think and we needed permission to read a book. So a lot of the things that the feminist movement is fighting for was actually taken away by religious constructs. And And religion, to me, has been the single biggest assault on freedom in Earth's history because it has been man made, it is patriarchal, and there is no equality in it at all. And it's also mostly made up, like 90%. So most feminists agree the five basic principles, which I just listed, working to increase equality, expanding human choice, eliminating genders, ending sexual violence, and promoting sexual freedom. Okay, so as you go through uh, shadow work, as you go through realizing who and what you are on this planet and why you're here, and that you're capable of so much more, when you really, really get to know who you are, all this BS falls away because of what I just went through on the divine feminine side. Intuition, to inherently tap into the gnosis of what is right and what is wrong for you as a soul being. Good communication, increased empathy, deep compassion, acceptance without being complacent, understanding, forgiveness, speaking, living, acting from the heart chakra, kindness, and gentleness. All of that comes about in a way that organically allows you to have all this cultural patriarchal BS just falls away. You realize all of a sudden that that is not the things that matter. Women bear the fruit and that men seed that. And that is how we have life. Any surgical misrepresentation of that is dark AI agenda. To cause gender fluidity, dark AI agenda. If you are struggling because you don't know who and what you are, it's because there's been too much manipulation of our psyche over our soul. Plain and simple. And it brought me back. I did a video when I first started my channel when I was pro-life, and still am pro-life. And I went through Margaret Sanger's history and how it came about and what a tyrant she was and how she was actually embraced by the African American communities because they were one of the worst abusers of their own women. And so when they, the men in these community churches and whatever, had situations where young women came to them for advice, or they were in extramarital relationships with these women and they got pregnant, they wanted a way to get rid of the babies. They were the ones that started their own genocidal campaign because they literally had brochures in the church that they would give out. So think about that. All of this has been used to divide us. It's all been used to divide us. At the end of the day, you really do have to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you're going to fall for some lines. You're going to fall for some BS. You're going to be like, oh, well, I see everyone going here and saying this. This must be the thing to do. And it is not. It is just because they're taking advantage of the fact that you don't know who you are. And you don't know why you were here. Okay, back to my channeled message from Maggie. This happened this morning. I said, Maggie, what is it? What is your message to women about divine feminine versus feminism? I am Maggie. Thank you, beautiful sister. The lost importance of the divine feminine has allowed for women to actually be controlled, manipulated, and abused both mentally and physically, which ironically and by design is exactly what feminists say they want it to end. Their own power is taken by these malevolent, nefarious, patriarchal controllers, and then they turn them against their own people in a false sense of equality. Prior to the overreach of various religions, which feel compelled to divide, those with power and rights could only be male, and all others, meaning women and children, must be subservient to men just for the sake of them being men, has not set a good example for society. This is not the way, not the teachings of Source Creator, Yeshua, or anything truly of the divine. Prior to the patriarchal takeover, women had power, position, property, wealth, wisdom, status, and higher consciousness to communicate with angels, archangels, guides, Source Creator, and Mother Gaia. This is the way. This gave women the ability to choose their area of focus. They could follow their gifts. They could be healers using higher consciousness frequency. They can be herbalists using nature's herbs, fruits, seeds, vegetables, and flowers. They could be psychics and oracles, which were greatly revered, or shamans, which were both men and women very respected in the communities. So instead of following more lies, please go within yourself, drop the ego and the false pretense, and get to the real power of you. Use it for the greater good. Love, gratitude, and forgiveness. All three. Think about them in a triangle. Love is at the top. Love is paramount. Love is never the wrong answer. You get to a loving place because you are gratitude, in a state of gratitude and forgiveness, true forgiveness. This is the way. When you embody divine feminine characteristics, you will enforce healthy boundaries and center yourself for Source Creator. By doing this and choosing this way of life, you will spiritually choose to love humbly, protect your power. That means no free sex, no casual sex. Truly embodying women's fertility and the power of their womb as portals. Let me just finish this and I'll come back to it. This is all exclusive women abilities. The combining of men's parts with women parts is directly dark agendas to take away the truly divine power of each divine masculine and divine feminine and to disempower all beings. See how manipulated so many people have been to cause harm, much more harm than good. Divine feminine is uniquely empowered to be visionaries, to be fertile and provide the life-producing, loving, nurturing powerhouses with great spiritual intuition and harmony, along with their divine masculine balance. The divine masculine balance with the divine feminine, their strength, analytical mind, passionate essence to provide safety, security, shelter, and the seed of life to their divine feminine partner. Know who you are, why you are here. It is your divine superpower, and it is within you. It is within all of us, with the soul, that we have that light of source. So I wanted to touch on something. When we hear about the Holy Grail, the scholars of theology like to say it was a cup. It is not a cup. The Holy Grail is the womb. At the time, it was Maggie's womb. Maggie's womb. And Maggie and Yeshua had children. And their children have had to be protected and hidden forever because of the power and the divine masculine and divine feminine in that bloodline. The Holy Grail is the womb. And it's the womb in all of us women that bore life. You have the Holy Grail. It is not a chalice up on a shelf somewhere hidden. That is just a cup. You are the divine superpower, and it is up to you to go the way of Source Creator and Mother Sophia. I'm just here to provide you the information so you make your free will choice. And I fully anticipate for this video to ruffle some feathers. But if, again, you are triggered, that means you have work to do. It is not about me or what I say. It is about how you have weaknesses, judgments, and concerns within your own being that you need to deal with. Please look back through all my videos. I have lots of videos about shadow work and judgment, and it'll help you get to where you need to be in finding your way